Hi! Today we are going to talk about how to find the area of a circle. Don't forget, if this video makes sense to you, be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this math channel. Okay, here we go. Now, before I just throw out the formula, I want to just give you a very quick visual. One sec. Pretty fast, huh? Okay, now I'm going to draw in the radius of this circle. Remember, the radius of a circle starts from the center and it goes out to any edge of it. Now, let's just pretend my circle's perfect, and let's pretend my perfect circle is inside a very perfect square. And now let's pretend I want to find the area of a portion of my square. So I'm going to split up my square into 4 equal parts. Now, let's kind of ignore the circle for a minute and let's pretend I wanted to find the area of just this bottom square. Now, if you remember the formula to find the area of a square, it's just side length times side length, okay? So in this case, our side length is the radius of the circle, and our other side length is also the radius of a circle. So if we wanted to find the area of that little square just down here, we would just take our radius and multiply by our radius. And another way to write that is radius squared. That means radius times radius. So I'm going to write that right here. It looks like that. Okay. Now, let's pretend we didn't want to find just the area of one of these squares. Let's pretend we wanted to find the area of all of them together. So we have one here, and if we multiply that by 1, 2, 3, 4, we would have the area of the whole thing. So the way to write that is like this. 4 times radius squared would give us the area of this whole square. Okay, now you didn't watch this video to learn about how to find the area of a square. You are watching this video on how to do the area of a circle. So let me draw a little bit more. 1 minute. Fast again, huh? Okay, so I just want to find the area of the red part, or the circle. So I'm going to pretend to take a little bit away from here, and I'm going to add it on right here. Okay, now I have one full square that is filled up, and I know how to find the area of that square. That's just radius squared, or radius times radius. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more, and I'm going to move it up here. Okay, now I have the area of a square here and the area of a square here. Okay, I'm going to take a little more, and I'm going to move it up here. Okay, now I have the area of 1 square, 2 square, 3 squares. Now, unfortunately, there is just a little bit of my circle left. So if I wanted to find the area of my circle, I would have to multiply it by 1, 2, 3, and just a teeny bit more. So almost 4,000 years ago, a guy named Archimedes came up with the number pi. And pi is a number that's just a little bigger than 3. And that's the number we use when we find the area of a circle. So the formula to find the area of a circle is actually pi, or 3.14 r squared. So we are going to use that formula to do a couple examples. Here we go. Let's pretend we have a circle and the radius of it is 5. Okay, instead of writing r, I'm going to write 5 because I know what r is. So I'm going to write pi 5 squared. And the first thing I'm gonna do is find out what is 5 squared? What is 5 times 5? And that's 25. So my answer is gonna be 25 times pi. And sometimes your teacher or a paper will ask you to write the answer in terms of pi, and the answer in terms of pi is 25 pi. Okay, now we're gonna find out the rounded answer. So I'm gonna take my calculator and I'm gonna go 25 times pi, and that equals 78.5 when you round it to the nearest 10. 78.5. Okay, so that is the area of my circle. Lots of times they will tell you if this is feet or centimeters or meters. So we always want to include our label, and area always has a squared sign because we're actually figuring out how many little tiny squares it would take to fill up our circle. Okay, let's do another one. Let's pretend this time we didn't have a drawing. We were just told the radius equals 7. Okay, so I am just gonna plug in the number 7 for radius, and I'm gonna have pi 7 squared. Pi times 7 squared. Now 7 times 7 is 49, so the answer in terms of pi would just be 49 pi. And then if I want to find the rounded answer, I would just take 49, multiply it by pi, and I get 153.9. Now, one thing to double check is the number pi is really close to the number 3. So you want to just check. 49 is close to 50. 50 times 3 is 150. So I know my answer must be correct because it's really close to that. And then, of course, if you are given a measurement, let's pretend centimeters, you always want to make sure to label centimeters squared. Okay, let's pretend this time you are not given a radius. Let's pretend this time you're not given a radius, but you're given a diameter. Let's pretend you are told the diameter equals 12. Now, if you remember, a diameter goes all the way across the circle, and a radius only goes halfway. So in order to use this formula, I've got to cut that diameter in half, and 12 cut in half is 6. So I'm going to use the number 6 when I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm going to take pi times 6 squared. 6 times 6 is 36. So my answer in terms of pi is 36 pi. Now again, I'm going to take my calculator and go 36 times pi to get 113.1. And of course, if this were in inches, we would want to label inches squared. Okay, we are going to do one more example. And this example is going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to give you the area and I want you to go back and find the radius. This time I'm going to write my equation like this. Pi r squared equals area. And let's pretend the area was 200. Okay, so instead of writing A, I'm going to write 200. And I am just going to know in my head that if we take a radius and multiply it by itself, and then multiply it by pi, I need to get 200. So the first thing I'm going to do is undo that multiplying by pi by dividing by pi, okay? So we're going to take this, divide by pi, and then we will have what radius squared equals. So I'm going to take 200, divide it by pi, and I get 63.7. So a radius times itself has to equal 63.7. Now, I bet my answer is going to be really close to 8 because I know 8 times 8 is 64. So it's got to be really close to that because 63.7 is really close to 64. So the way to get rid of this squared symbol is by square rooting it. On your calculator, it's a button that looks like this. Kind of like a check mark and then a line. So I'm gonna find that button in my calculator that's gonna undo this. And I'm gonna find the square root of 63.7. So square root of 63.7 equals 7.981, which would round to 8. So radius equals 8. Now I'm gonna double check myself with this formula and go 8 times 8 times pi and see if I get my area of 200. And I got 201, and the only reason it's slightly different is because we rounded to the nearest tenth when we were doing this, okay? So hopefully that helps. Please comment down below if you need any more help on this. I'd be happy to make another video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.